Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That is the Hall of Fame of Cris Carter. That is Nick Wright. We got a fun show today. We got some more finger pointing in Dallas. Big Ben, that's it. All this way and that way. Big Ben.
The show is bad.
Yeah, not me.
The show is good.
Did you see that? Finger pointing. That's where it all starts. Big Ben is stirring the pot in Pittsburgh, and not in the good way. Speaking of finger pointing, and Odell will put his money where his mouth is tonight. Let's start right there.
It's a lot of money.
Thursday night football on Fox. 2-3 Eagles taking on the 1-4 Giants. A divisional battle of who needs it more. Both teams coming off disappointing losses. Both teams trying to jumpstart their offense. Both teams trying to stay relevant in the NFC East. So what do both teams expect in this one? Let them tell you. Take a listen.
Division games are always important, and that's always the goal. You got to win your divisions. The only way to ensure making the playoffs, and with where everybody is right now, these are crucial games. So we got to get going.
Again, when we're 2-3, not where we want to be, but I think the main thing is nobody in this locker room is in a panic, and that's a good thing. Guys are sticking together, and that's the most important.
Right now, we're just not clicking on all cylinders yet, and it's been frustrating. Like you said, we've had those little mistakes, those unfortunate penalties, and lots of things like that. But we definitely believe we can be that offense, and we're looking forward to proving that on Thursday.
It's Giants Eagles. It's enough said right there.
That is true. Both teams do not love the position they're in, but boy, this is going to be a good game when they both go up against each other, especially as a test to see where they both are. What do you think the key is to tonight's matchup, C?
Well, for one, they're going to be battling the weather. We got storms coming through the East Coast, tropical storm hit there in South Florida and the Panhandles, coming up through Georgia, and eventually will be on the East Coast probably this afternoon and tonight. So very, very sloppy. Philadelphia, I believe, has an advantage in that. Why? Jenna, you talked about huge advantage on Thursday night games. The home teams have won all these Thursday night games. 5-0. Philadelphia's, man, they're getting in a bus, going right up the turnpike, about an hour and a half compared to getting on a plane. A couple weeks ago, the Vikings, they flew to Los Angeles on a Tuesday. So the schedule makers, as far as the Eagles, when you're Super Bowl champs, they don't do you any favors. You have a lot of strange starting times, but they did do them a favor as far as the Thursday night game, it being a divisional opponent who they know very well, they can get prepared for quickly, and it's only going to be a bus ride for them. So if Philadelphia can control the football with their short passing the game, neither one of these teams can run the ball very, very efficiently. So it's going to be a battle of turnovers. Eli Manning, can he make enough big plays without forcing the ball or turning the ball over? Because the Eagles in their front seven have played very, very well, especially the last 3 games. The back end, the secondary, has struggled. So does Odell Beckham get it going? A lot of double moves on the outside, so Eli's going to have to hold the ball a little bit to try to create some big plays. That's what I expect in a divisional game, contested highly. Big plays are going to be hard to come by on a very, very sloppy field.
You mentioned turnovers. Neither one of these teams is forcing turnovers this year. Now, they're committing a few, but both teams have forced 5 turnovers. That's obviously 1 a game. That's below league average. So if one of these teams can force the other team into losing that giveaway takeaway, that is, you talk about all the time, and it's right, for 100 years of NFL football, or 99 years, that's been the most indicative stat. That could be the case tonight as well. But assuming that plays even, assuming one team doesn't have a 3-turnover game, I think the Giants are positioned actually quite well in this game because it's a short week, being the home team, even though they don't have the advantage of the road team traveling, because they are familiar with the Eagles, and because the Eagles right now, oddly enough, even though the Giants lost last week, they might feel better about what happened last week on the field than Philadelphia does. Where the Eagles can ruin this game for the Giants is where we saw them ruin so many games last year, their defensive line overpowering the Giants' offensive line. Because I think if Eli has time to throw, Odell and Sterling Shepard can take advantage of what has been a bad Eagles secondary. But if Eli doesn't have time to throw, as has been the case so often this year, if the D-line, Fletcher Cox with his new redone deal, and his friends can get after Eli Manning, the game can be ended right then and there. If the Eagles' one unit, which was their strongest unit last year post-Wentz injury, if they look like they did last year, that defensive line rotation, that could be enough to beat the New York Giants.
Because this is such a I don't want to say a weak division, but no team is above 500.
Oh, it's a weak division right now.
Well, at least amongst themselves it is. Either team can win or lose and still theoretically be in this just because of where the division is. Who needs this win more to get themselves back on track?
Oh, the Giants. The Giants have great desperation going into this game. The Giants will not recover if they lose. The Giants go to 1-5.
It's over.
Their season's over with. They can get ready to have another top 5 pick because that's where the Giants are going.
They'll probably get a quarterback.
I mean, that's what the conversation is going to be. They got a couple good ones. My man Greer there at West Virginia, the quarterback at Oregon. And the next couple of years, there's some good throwers out there. But no, this is a game where the New York Football Giants will have desperation. Now, I disagree with Nick as far as feeling better about going into this game. Giants don't feel good. They don't feel good. They ain't have nothing good to talk about. They trying to make it sound, oh, we scored more than 30 points. But you lost. Odell Beckham talking bad about his coaches and teammates, and you lost. Your season's on the line, on the brink. Right now, you're 1-4. Like, ain't a lot of good things to come out of that. Philadelphia can lose this game and at 2-4 still be in the playoff hunt compared to the Giants. So I expect a lot of desperation from the G-men tonight.
So I guess both teams lost last week. I think the Giants could say it was a step in the right direction, while Philadelphia cannot. At least the way
if you want to, if that's the way you want to look at it. But when you look at that locker room, I can guarantee you Eli Manning doesn't feel better this week than he did last week. All right? Now, he's not going to do interviews and say that, but you're not going to get criticized by your star wide receiver and your record be 1-4 because you are what your record is. I know the Giants aren't thinking that they're 4-1. They realize that their season hangs in the balance, so I expect desperation. There's no team in the NFL that feels good and is 1-4.
That part I totally agree with, in their season in its totality. As far as these two teams, the team that could be essentially eliminated tonight is the team that needs it more. But as far as the league-wide, like, the Eagles are still, for a lot of people, an actual Super Bowl contender. That will change, at least in my eyes, and I think a lot of people's eyes, if they go to New York tonight and lose this football game. You're right, they'll still be alive for their division because nobody in the division has more than 2 wins, and I think right now it's the worst division in football. But if Philadelphia loses tonight, and we look at where they are post-Wentz coming back, and it's like, okay, so wait, hold on. Tennessee's offense moved the ball on you. Minnesota moved the ball on you. If you go to the Giants, a team that is struggling like this, and lose, to fall to 2-4, when you were 13-3 last year, despite all the injuries, then we have to start, at least I will have to start thinking about the Eagles in a different light.
Even though you know the Eagles are most likely going to pick up a marquee running back, even though the Eagles' offense is most likely going to get better, and this is for the most part who the Giants are.
They do get Mike Wallace back.
They get Mike Wallace back.
The wide receiver, Jeffries, just started to play, so they're going to get better. All their running backs have been hurt. So you're talking about a team that's going to get better, they're going to get better. Their offensive line is not going to play worse than they have, and they don't have any injuries. So those things with the Eagles, I look at as being promising, even if they were to lose this game.
I'm not going to bake into it that they're adding the running back. I think they could add a running back, but if they trade for LaShawn McCoy or Le'Veon Bell, it would be one of the biggest mid-season trades any team has made in over a decade in this league.
I'll be shocked if the Eagles don't make a move. I'll be shocked if they keep the same roster. Featured running back, Corey Clement. Yeah, you're going to defend the Super Bowl like that? No. I believe Howie Roseman and them, they're going to get a deal done before the trade deadline and bring in another running back. All
right, we'll talk much more about this game, but on the other side, let's stay in the NFC East. Why is a Cowboys receiver throwing Dak and his coaches under the bus? That's next on First Things First. All right, moving on to the Cowboys now, a team whose molehills are turning into mountains. As if the team needed yet more finger-pointing, wide receiver Allen Hurns had harsh words for the Cowboys coaches. He referred to the second interception Dak Prescott threw against the Texans last week as the worst play call you could make. All this as Dallas gets ready to play Hurns' old team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Here is Alex Hurns explaining what he said.
I didn't question it. Everyone knows that's not a good play call versus two-man. What's so unfortunate for us, that was their only snap of two-man. So it was just an unfortunate situation, but I ain't questioning play call. It's not like, I'm just coming out saying a statement. People ask the question and I tell them how it is. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but as far as me, I'm just going to tell it how it is, for real, for real.
Does his explanation, Alan Hearn's explanation, make it better? See, what was your reaction?
His explanation makes sense to people in football because a lot of times you call plays and different teams have a different audible system. Every coach, when he calls a play, he believes trying to predict what kind of coverage, what kind of front that they're going to be in. So every play they design is a great play to accomplish a certain amount. But depending upon what the defense is, some coverages are better or worse for certain routes. On this one, 3rd and long, they ran a deep curl route. It's 14 to 16 yard. The wide receiver is going to release off the line of scrimmage, drive up, straighten the line, and come straight back. What people call a long time ago a button hook, just a simple curl pattern. Seems very simple, but the Texans, they played 2-man. Well, that means the guy is going to be inside of you, mirroring you, and he's going to get on your inside hip. So at the top of the route, Alan Hearns is saying, we didn't have a route adjustment. I wish Dak would have audible. So people asked the question after, what happened on the interception? He said, well, we got a play called that they actually had a better defense called. So this was not a good play against that coverage. Dennis Green, when he came to Minnesota, we ran that same play right there. But because of Jerry Rice and Bill Walsh in the West Coast offense, we put route adjustments on that because people would play myself and the Vikings in 2-man. We broke it across the middle as a route adjustment. Dallas does not have a sophisticated passing attack. It took me a long time to get there, but that's what Alan Hearns was able to tell us. They don't have a lot of route adjustments, and the quarterback does not have a lot of flexibility in changing the plays at the line of scrimmage. So when we criticize Dak, we need to understand his system does not have the flexibility that Tom Brady has, not the one that Peyton Manning has, not the one that Aaron Rodgers has, that you have a lot of route adjustments based on the coverage that will get you into a better route. People wonder why wide receivers struggle with going to New England. And the reason why is because most of their routes have some type of adjustment depending on what the coverage is. So I hope I didn't confuse people. But what Alan Hearns is saying, he's trying to answer the question the best way possible. The route that they had called, and based on their limited audible system, Dak, that was the best play. That was the best that they could do on that play.
Little cross-examination here, if I may. So
no
when you
problem.
say when
let the witness get a drink.
when in New England, when they see that, is it an unspoken adjustment? Is there a signal?
There's a combination. There are signals. There's also he can change the total route. And also, you have route adjustments that once you run a certain route.
So during the route, you're making
it's called reading it on the run.
Okay.
And most fans don't get a chance to see that. But playing wide receiver in the NFL can be very, very complicated. And how much information the wide receivers can maintain, it really leads to how flexible the system's going to be. Last year, Dallas got rid of the wide receiver coach and other offensive coaches. Remember Dez Bryant talking about he wasn't coached up? Remember other wide receivers saying, man, we weren't taught certain things? This all comes back to coaching in Dallas. They don't have one of the most sophisticated passing systems, and Dak does not have the flexibility that the upper echelon quarterbacks have in this league to build audible at the line of scrimmage.
So that leads to the follow-up question. Why would you not give, whether it's Dak specific or just in general, why would you not give a quarterback that flexibility?
All quarterbacks can't handle it. All players can't handle that flexibility in the system. It depends on a guy's football IQ and how much the offensive coaches are going to trust those players.
So Jerry Jones, I bring this up again, I did it a couple weeks ago, came out and threw it out there. We want a Dak-friendly offense. And now I think we're slowly starting to see over the last couple games what that is. So when you say that the Cowboys don't have a sophisticated passing attack, is that all part of trying to make it a little more scaled back, a little easier for Dak Prescott because you don't think he could handle anything more?
Well, this is the thing. We can draw that conclusion. Because of they're not growing the offense. He's been the starter there now going on 3 years. We expect every player for their game to grow. Also, there's not a trust factor, either Dallas, because I know Scott Linehan. I know the audible system he had when he was in Detroit. I know the audible system he had in the Vikings. It was very, very extensive. At some times, you have to do what the players that are with you. So we can criticize Scott Linehan. We can criticize Jason Garrett. But sometimes it's hard. Because it's the Odell Beckham thing. Well, what if the coaches of Dallas come out and say, hey, the quarterback can't handle an audible system? And then how would we feel? Being like, hey, that's great insight, coach. No. He would destroy the team that way. So a lot of times this information is not going to get out because they're trying to protect people. It happens in New England all the time. Be like, is this guy going to be good in New England? No, he's not going to be good because I know the system that they have, and that system is one of the most complicated systems in the league.
All right, so if Dak doesn't have the authority to audible out of that specific play, if the receivers in that setting don't have route adjustments, is that play just drawing dead? Is the moment you get to the line with that play called?
No, the play's not drawn dead. You're expecting your guys to be better athletes than them. So it becomes harder. It becomes harder for me to do my job. I expect someone like Tom Moore, who's my offensive coordinator, who's also Peyton Manning. He's the one put in the system where Peyton could audible, you know, at everything. Omaha. Right. That's what he said. That's alert. All right, we're getting ready to change this because the play Tom gave me, it's not the best play to attack this. I'm getting ready to give you a better play. That's why a lot of teams go to no huddle. It's not to speed up. It's just so I can see what the defense is going to be, so the coach can tell me, because he can talk to 15 seconds in my helmet and give me a better play compared to the one that he just gave me. It's the way football's advanced over the years. Now, I don't have to wait, Jenna, to get to the sideline, to get on my computer to make an adjustment. I don't have to wait till halftime. People don't wait till halftime to make adjustments. They make adjustments play after play. And Dallas Cowboys have less flexibility in their passing game because they have a number of plays that they're going to do called call it and run it. That means my guy is better than your guy. And pro football's not that way anymore.
All right, so then, so when you say they're athletes, you just got to do your job better, essentially, if you can't get out of the play. Then let's go to the wide receivers, because that's not who Alan Hearns was talking about. In that spot, what can these Cowboys wide receivers, what could Deontay Thompson have done better there? I know it wasn't thrown to Alan Hearns, but Alan Hearns got 8 catches for 84 yards on the season. So what can those guys do better in those spots?
Yeah, I'm not going to put the pressure on them because these guys have been role players. Alan Hearns has 1,000-yard season. Deontay Thompson has been, at best, in his best day in the NFL, he's been a number 3 guy, at best. I don't expect them to have the route savviness to be able to bounce down outside towards the sideline. Also, we got a young quarterback. 60% of all interceptions are the wide receiver's fault, and it's because they are not in sync with the quarterback. So guys who have less talent, they have less flexibility because they have less skill at the top of the route to try to get that inside position. What I would have done was make the DB think I was going across and be able to snap it across his face and try to come down to give the quarterback a bigger target and give him a friendlier receiver to be able to throw to.
So bringing this back to the beginning, this seems to be the season of if there's something on your mind, just say it when it comes to calling out your team. Do you have an issue at all with how Alan Hearns brought this out?
No, he was answering the question. He said, well, what happened on the interception?
That's not the kind of thing you keep, and he just pretty much said exactly what it was.
No, he's doing his job. Part of his job is to catch the football, but part of his job is to answer reporters' question. They asked him a legitimate question. He gave them a legitimate answer. Now, we're just stuck on throwing people under the bus. Oh, he said something. No, he didn't. He said they had a better defense called than what we had. We don't have the flexibility. He didn't say this, but I'm interpreting it for him. We don't have the flexibility to be able to get out of that play, and we don't have route adjustments that we ran a bad play against a good defense, and it resulted in an interception.
Awesome. All right, got to take a break. Take a rest.
Man, I'm exhausted.
I'm tired just listening, but I know 100% more football than I did 12 minutes ago.
That was hard for me, man.
Coming up, what will the Timberwolves do with Jimmy Butler after he went nuclear at practice? You're on the hot seat next. First things first, right after. Back here on First Things First, it is time for Players You Can Trust, brought to you by Aladdin. One of the big themes of Aladdin is the magic carpet ride. It is also trust. Let's just stick with trust in this one. Which quarterback, CC, do you trust more in tonight's Thursday Night Football matchup on Fox, mind you? Carson Wentz or Eli Manning?
It's good. I trust that guy with the shadow that was over the Aladdin logo and everything. But Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz he's my quarterback. He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. He's a big play waiting to happen. His leadership skills. Now, I know the Eagles went to the Super Bowl with Nick Foles, but they are not a better football team than they are right now. He just doesn't have the support of guys playing around them. Major trust factor, I trust Aladdin. I trust Carson Wentz.
This is the easiest question we'll be asked all day. The answer is Carson Wentz. Eli's Walter Payton Man of the Year, 2 Super Bowls, all the respect in the world, Eli. But in 2018, I think I might have trusted Carson Wentz during his ACL rehab more than I trust Eli Manning at this moment. So, no, Carson Wentz
If we were getting ready for a playoff game, we'd been like, which one of these guys you trust more? Oh, okay now. Hey.
Did that change?
Then you'd have a conversation because Carson Wentz, you ain't seen him. All right, then you'd be like, hey, Eli, the bandwagon for Eli. If you get him to the playoffs, Eli's a different guy.
If he gets to the playoffs, that's a fair point. But in week 6, Carson Wentz.
1 and 4, Carson Wentz.
Absolutely.
Rainstorm, tornado, hurricane.
Don't miss a first look at Disney's new movie, Aladdin, tonight on Fox. All right, time now for stories to start your morning. Patriots cornerback Stephon Gilmore finally gave Jalen Ramsey a little dose of his own medicine. Ramsey had a lot to say before the season started. Yesterday, Gilmore said of Ramsey, a lot of guys that talk are mostly zone guys, so they got a lot of energy to do that. It's actually quite clever. See, any truth to this?
Well, Stephon Gilmore's a guy that does not talk an awful lot. Really quiet guy. I got a chance to meet him. We trained him for the Combine. He works out down in South Florida. So he's playing tremendous football. Didn't necessarily do that when he came over initially from Buffalo, but he can be a shutdown corner. The reason why the Pats are so successful now is because of their secondary. Some of these guys do play zone. Jalen Ramsey, he plays zone and man. Jalen can talk. Just don't talk too much. So I'm with Jalen talking. All right, because he's a really good player, and it's a nice little swag and everything. Not the article for GQ, but he's zone and a very good man coverage guy.
Listen, people are going to clap back at Jalen, and that's fine, but there's not much to criticize about his play. This isn't a situation with, like, our friend Josh Norman, where you could say, credibly, is it scheme?
Yeah.
Is it, or even Richard
This would have been a great argument for Josh Norman.
For Josh Norman. Is it scheme? It could have been an argument against Richard Sherman at one point in time. How much of that is scheme? Jalen Ramsey, any scheme, any system, he's like Patrick Peterson. He's going to be an elite corner no matter where you put him.
He knows the difference between sick and sit 'em. That's important when you're a football player. You guys, I'll explain it later.
To the NBA now, where earlier this week James Harden did this and officials did not call it traveling. Folks were fired up, so much so that the official NBA Twitter account had to confirm that this was indeed a legal play. Nick, what'd you make of the play?
This is part of what makes James Harden a basketball genius and, to me, one of the most creative players ever. Every year he comes back with something new.
Great word choice, creative.
Every year, some guys are in the lab, he's in the rule book, and he's like, okay, what are the official rules?
Yeah, absolutely.
How can I exploit them? And you know what? There ain't nothing wrong with that. He's not the most athletic guy. He doesn't jump the highest. He's not the most explosive, yet he's won scoring titles. He's won an MVP. Maybe should have won a couple MVPs because he figures things out. He is crafty. I have all the respect in the world for him on this.
Same way New England does. Same way Tom Brady does. You tap Tom Brady on his head, he'll tell him, hey, ref, hey, guy, touch me. You can't do that anymore. Take advantage of the rules, be a student of the game, and people don't give him credit for how creative he is. Great word choice there. Also, every once in a while, I used to catch a ball, and the ref be like, that wasn't a catch. I'd be like, you ain't seen that before. He's like, no. I see, that was right. That was the problem with that one, Jenna. We had never seen it before.
That's it. All right. Lonzo Ball made his debut alongside LeBron last night as the Lakers took on Golden State. LeBron had 15 points. Lonzo chipped in 7 coming off the bench. See, you watch this. What was your biggest takeaway seeing these two together?
I like Lonzo. I'm glad to see him back into the lineup. But the one thing he's got to do is you watch him. He's got to play better without the ball. They have Ingram. He plays with the ball. He's ball dominant. LeBron is ball dominant. Lonzo is ball dominant. So how do they able to get all these guys into the flow? Those other guys got to play better without the ball. That's what's going to be. You could see, though, the extra 15 pounds on his shoulders, a lot bigger, a lot stronger than his rookie year.
I understand he opened the game with an air ball, but his first game back, he actually, I thought, played well in limited minutes. And there's going to be, early in the season with the Lakers, I imagine a lot of plays where Lonzo or LeBron try to throw a pass that could lead to an assist, and it goes into the first row. Jack Nicholson catches it because they're not all exactly in sync. But these are two pass-first guys with super high basketball IQs. It's going to work.
I'm glad you warned Jack, because Jack be lit at them games.
Yeah,
he ain't ready to be reacting to that. Hey, Jack be lit.
Jay-Z might have to help him out there.
Jack be nimble, Jack be lit. Oh, Jack Nicholson better be quick.
Oh,
Jay
on
Wolfe
the fly.
with the salt and pepper. Pepper. Finally, to two of LeBron's
I saw
former...
Pepper lately. She changed her skin color. She looked like she's salt. That's another story, though.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Check it out. Check it out.
I checked it out. Didn't know it was going to make the show.
All right.
Coming in hot.
Finally, to two of LeBron's former teammates, both Kevin Love and Kyrie admitted playing with LeBron was sometimes a struggle. Love said there were dark times when he was teamed up with LeBron, while Kyrie said leaving LeBron was the best thing he ever did. CC, what was your reaction to these comments?
Just real quick, he said leaving the Cavs was the best thing he ever did, right?
He said
Kyrie,
leaving the Cavs.
Leaving the Cavs. I just want to make... LeBron's on the Cavs, I get it.
You imply that when he was leaving wasn't anyone else on that team except really LeBron.
Okay, to me, just the quote is a little more... If he said leaving LeBron is the best thing I ever did...
He didn't say... He would catch a lot of heat for that. There's a drastic difference between the two. And, you know, Kyrie, we're looking, you know, in our rearview mirror. LeBron's gone to L.A. Of course it was a great decision. Now, if LeBron had still been there, if they had to go through LeBron, imagine if Kyrie was on the court last year when Boston lost to Cleveland. You think he'd be sitting there saying, oh, man, great decision I made? No, it wouldn't be a great decision. But now with LeBron being gone, and we have to give Kyrie, and sometimes we don't do it. Now, I'm learning when people are different. Like, I'm doing a show with a guy that's really weird, strange, odd, peculiar, all those things.
Understood.
In the word club. That's in there, Nick, as a definition. So I got to get used to kind of accepting kind of in a different... Kyrie's a different guy. He's a hell of a basketball player, but he's a different type of person. All the great players are hard to play with. What do they say about Russ? What do they say about Harden? What they say about KD? KD left Russ. So anytime you're a great player, we were having an office discussion, people say that about Michael Jordan. Accomplished people are not the most easy to deal with because of their standards on a daily basis.
Bingo.
And why should it be so different?
And, all right, so a number of things here. And first of all, for the final time, I'm not in a word club. However, that's not the point here. Let's discuss this. Kyrie wanted to be the man. Kyrie was not happy, reportedly, when LeBron went back to Cleveland. Kyrie re-signed in Cleveland.
How many games did they win, Nick?
Oh, gosh. I think it was 26. It was they were never sniffed the playoffs.
And Kyrie was happy.
Kyrie wanted to be the man. And he won a title and still wasn't fully satiated as far as what he wants basketball-wise. So he's a different type of cat. And I do not begrudge him that at all. Kevin Love talked about the positives of playing with LeBron and the negatives. And he was incredible. You writing satiated down right now? Yeah. That ain't how it's spelled.
Oh, I know. It's word. Dusty's got me working on this weirdo.
Okay. All right, thank you.
$5 for my monthly membership.
Kevin Love talked about the positives and the negatives. It is incredibly stressful. It is. You are going to be, man, the basketball world didn't know Jordan Clarkson was terrible. Like, only the real basketball diehards knew how bad Jordan Clarkson was when he was in Los Angeles. Come play with LeBron. Playing some playoff games, some finals games. And now everybody knows. It's not for everybody. And so you're poking fun at me. It's not always easy to work on TV with a Hall of Famer. Standards doing it for 15 years. But I wouldn't trade it for nothing. Like, you gotta, there's scrutiny, there's more people looking at you, you have to raise your game. Like, I love it. I totally understand some people wouldn't. Some people say, man, like, life's good in other places, and there's less expectations other places. Some guys are made for Phoenix. That's why Phoenix is there. Like, you know what I mean? I can go get my money, I can get my points, and so and by the way, that's not a judgment on those players. I don't think Kyrie's one of those guys. I think Kyrie's a guy that is made for all of it. Kyrie just wants it to be, he wants to be the starring actor in his own movie. And I don't blame him for that. But people, I think, are drawing the conclusion of, oh, Paul George didn't go there. Jimmy Butler's not on his list. Is this about LeBron? Partially, I'm sure. There's, for some guys, LeBron is the best player in the league to play with. And for some guys, he's not. Like, you don't want the pressure, or you want the credit, because we know this right now. If LeBron's teams are good, he's going to get the credit, and he's going to deserve it.
And there's a difference with, look at the superstars that LeBron has played with, and that being Shaq, D. Wade, Ray Allen. And all these guys, man, they swear by LeBron. Look at the other players. Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving. They swear by LeBron, but it's not the best. It's not where they can live their best life. It's not the situation where they're going to thrive the best.
Bosh as well. Bosh put him in that group.
Absolutely. Chris Bosh, man, he sacrificed so much, but Chris Bosh wouldn't be a champion without LeBron. So would he trade that to not have LeBron there? No. When you have people that have accomplished a lot, or people that have tremendous giftings, there's tremendous expectations. One of the college coaches, he was recruiting a kid who I knew and everything, and he said that sitting down at the kid's table, it offered him a scholarship, and the parents had 2 professional parents, and he said, you know something, I like coming to kids' homes that their parents are both accomplished people, because the standard at the dinner table is totally different than someone who grows up in a single-parent home. He said, there's nothing, I have a lot of single-parent homes. He said, but when they sit down to dinner, and their parents have been successful, what they expect from the kids is totally different. And that's what you have when you sit down and you're on the team with LeBron James. The expectations, they're out the roof.
All right, let's talk some more basketball. Who knew preseason b-ball could be so entertaining? Jimmy Butler did.
Whatever. And by the way, giftings, not in the word club. Go ahead.
Jimmy Butler did. Quite an interesting day for the All-Star. Butler reportedly took yesterday's practice as an opportunity to target his coach, Tom Thibodeau, and teammates Karl-Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, at one point screaming at his general manager, "You bleeping need me. You can't win without me." He then spoke to Rachel Nichols, who was conveniently in Minnesota on the same day.
All my emotion came out at one time. Was it the right way to do it? No. But I can't control that when I'm out there competing. Like, that's my love of the game. That's raw me at my finest, me at my purest. That's what you're going to get inside the lines. I think that I was honest. Was I brutally honest? Yes. But I think that that's the problem. Everybody's so scared to be honest with one another. If you didn't like the way that I handled myself in practice, one of the players come up to me. Somebody say something. Anybody. I'm not going to take it offense. It's not personal. Jimmy, you shouldn't have done that. Yeah, you probably right. I would have said, I ain't hooped in I don't know how long. I mean, I'm passionate about it. I love the game, and I love to win. And that's all I was out there doing, was competing.
All right, what'd you think about all this, Nick?
All right, so this is one of the, I think, coolest stories in recent NBA off seasons, because it was premeditated and it involves such a high degree of difficulty. And here's what I mean. Jimmy Butler's folks called Rachel Nichols the night before last and said, come to Minneapolis, he's ready to talk. And Jimmy Butler then decided, I'm going to have this big interview coming, I'm going to show up to practice. All that's premeditated, right? But then he has to go execute what he executed at practice, which was reportedly show up to practice late, grab 4 third-string guys, and say, it's me and these 4 guys against Big Cat, against Wiggs, against any of the other starters. Well, let's see who's got it. And he never lost a game. And that's what added to the interview with Rachel Nichols. That's what added to him being able to say, you bleeping need me, you can't win without me. His entire issue with the Minnesota Timberwolves is not Tibbs, it's not the role players, it's that he said in the interview, Karl-Anthony Towns is the most talented player on the team. Andrew Wiggins is the most God-gifted player on the team. But who plays the hardest? Me. And he wanted to get that message out there. He wanted to remind everyone how good he is. But he had to go win those games at practice in the middle of that premeditation, and he did it. Now, I don't know if this helps him get traded, because I know Tom Thibodeau well enough to know Tom Thibodeau watched that and said, oh, my God, I've never loved you more, Jimmy Butler. Your competitive ferocity, how good you still are. But, I mean, this was all part of his PR campaign, if you will, to remind the world who he is, and I think it was, at least to this point, relatively successful.
Yeah, Jenna, I wouldn't let him back in the gym. I wouldn't have him around the players. I'll move him immediately. I wouldn't have him, because I made a choice. I made a choice that I'm going with Wiggins. I made a choice that I'm going with Karl-Anthony Towns, and I'm getting ready to support him. And I'm not getting ready to let someone come into my basketball practice, because I know people think it's sport, but, you know, it's a job. Could you imagine having someone like that in your office? Could you imagine, like, to make everyone else comfortable? So I don't laugh and stuff about it, because somebody can get hurt. And there's a difference between, you couldn't have no football player out there doing that. You could have a basketball player, because you couldn't have no football player challenge a guy like that, because they would be fisticuffs. They out there talking. Jimmy was the only one serious. And Karl-Anthony Towns is not that guy. Wiggins is not that guy. And if you care about them as a team and you're trying to be a playoff contender this year, you got to move Jimmy Butler. I wouldn't let him back in the building one more day. All right, I'll be on the phone all day. I would move him because you cannot have that type of environment at your job and think that people are going to get better. No one's going to get better. Did he prove a point? Yeah, he proved a point. But we got to get him out of here. We have chose we're going a different direction. He is no longer needed to be at the building. I'm going to support the players who I've made an investment in. You want to be moved, as Denny Green told me? Come to my office, and I'm getting ready to accommodate you. And that's what they should do with Jimmy Butler as soon as possible.
That was my take this morning, that this guy was now suddenly going to be as talented as he is, and wherever his heart and his intentions are, a cancer in that locker room. Why do you want to be with someone who you know doesn't want to be there, will play on his time, when he wants to play, around the people he wants to play with? I just don't understand how you can set up a successful game plan or a successful season with a guy who doesn't want to be there.
I reject your premise that he's going to play on his time when he wants to be there. He said he's coming back to practice today.
No. We know Jimmy Butler. He's one of the hardest workers. This is the kind of guy, he made himself into a player. But you can't go into the season, so you're right about this. Like, they can't move forward with a guy acting like this. No. Because it does mess up the team.
But this is how, hold on. This is how Jimmy, I talked to someone that was there yesterday. This is how Jimmy Butler practiced in Chicago. Like, he's always wolfing. He's always yelling. He's always trying to win every drill. And that, by the way, grates on some guys.
Let me tell you something. When you are the best player or you have the most experience, you know what you do to people like Cat and them? You don't tell them the whole truth. You don't tell them things are going to crush them. You don't tell them things that they're going to make their game worse. Like, you tell them things to try to build them up. Now, is there a fine line there? Yes. But Jimmy Butler was not trying to help these players get better. He's trying to take their spirit and crush them. And once it becomes to that, it is counterproductive. Competition is one thing. Combative, that's another thing. And that's what that was yesterday. That wasn't about competition. And that's the reason why none of the other players came up and said anything to him. Why? Because they knew it wasn't about basketball. It was about other things.
And so if this was how he was going to be at every practice moving forward, at every drill, if he was always just going to be trying to demean Big Cat and Wiggins, then maybe I would be on your guys' side of this. But I do want people to understand where Jimmy Butler's mindset is, where he was a year ago when he was super excited to be traded to Minnesota. A year ago. You know that GM survey we just did? Mm-hmm. You know who won which player you'd most want to start your franchise with? Not Anthony Davis, not Giannis, not LeBron, not Durant, Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns, Kentucky, #1 overall pick. Wiggins, Kansas, #1 overall pick. Jimmy Butler, junior college, Marquette, 30th pick. And he gets to Minnesota, and he sees both of these guys who were supposed to be like this. Karl kind of leveled off, and Wiggins dipped enormously. Now, some of that can fall on him. He's got the veteran leader. He needs to lift guys up. Some of it can fall on him. But if you're two guys on max contracts in this league, your own basketball destiny has to be your own prerogative. And so I think Jimmy Butler would like, if he's going to be on the team, those guys to be better. I think he wants what's best for them if he's going to be there. And him showing up to practice yesterday opened the door that he will be there. You said if it were football, but he knows it's not football. I agree with you. You can't do this in an NFL practice.
I was just giving the people an example of why these things happen at a basketball practice compared to football.
Right, but it's not. My point is, you say all the time, football, there's not a lot of tough guys in the NBA.
There's not.
Right, which is.
And yesterday was a great example of it. Because who would let someone carry on like that? Like, who would allow a player like that to talk down to him, call him soft? Oh, you soft, and you softer. Like, who would do that? Who would take up that? No, basketball players would. And that's why in the NBA, they allow stuff like that to happen. If it happened in the NBA, somebody would have hit him in his mouth. Yep.
Well, but it didn't. But it didn't.
It's obvious. Oh, they're very productive. I'm sure the Timberwolves are more valuable today than they were yesterday. Man, ship that dude out of there. Pack him.
Got to take a break. Coming up,
Find
does Baker Mayfield lead the Browns all the way to the playoffs? That's next on First Things First. Back here, First Things First, Super Bowl champ Cris joins the show. What's going on, Cris?
Sir, nothing much, Jenna. How you doing this morning?
In honor of your orange tie, we're going to talk a little Baker Mayfield, who is donning the orange and brown of late with the team that currently employs him, the Cleveland Browns, the fiery and fun-to-watch quarterback.
Very good. Jenna Wolfe presenting a nice work environment for you today, Mr. Camp.
Real comfortable.
Nice and
I didn't know where he was going. I got a little nervous. A little smooth transition.
Not like what
That's
Jimmy
what we call
Butler
it
did
in TV.
yesterday. Got it.
Baker Mayfield has led the Browns to 2 wins in their first 5 games. Let me do the math for you. That is more wins than they had the last 2 seasons combined.
What are you, in a math club, Jenna?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm satiated.
Paying double, too.
I'm going to read the next sentence with the ferocity of someone. He was asked if the recent winning proves the Browns, quote, aren't bad. Here's what Baker had to say about that.
I've known the Browns weren't bad since the second I stepped foot in this franchise. We had a special team from the get-go. Whoever we're playing has nothing to do with this team. You know, we believe in this team we have. Management's put together a great group of guys, and so it's on us from now to learn and move forward. We're a 1 week at a time mindset. You know, we moved on from the first 4 games of the season. Now we're into the second quarter, and we're looking at a chance to go 2-0. You know, if you win each quarter, you're looking at a great possibility of going to the playoffs. And so we just got to take care of business 1 game at a time. You know, obviously the end goal, yes, is to win the division and make the playoffs, but you don't do that unless you take it 1 week at a time.
Let me start with you on this, CC. The Browns got the perfect quarterback. They needed someone that had the confidence and the moxie of what Johnny Manziel had, but someone who was going to back it up with leadership and with great football skill, and I think that's what they got in Baker. How much does his confidence mean to the Browns' recent success?
Confidence means an awful lot, especially for young players, because that's one of the things. From the time these kids decide they're going to enter pro football, we do everything to tell them they're not good. The whole draft evaluation process is just brutal. We tell them, you know, Baker was 6'2" in college. You know what? That dude could 5'11" in the NFL. I mean, they do everything to take money away from you, take away your credentials. He played in the Big 12. They throw the ball around. Their quarterbacks don't do well. That's what we do. But Baker has the type of intangibles that this is what you need for a franchise, not only a franchise like the Browns, but if you are trying to be in the playoff conversation, you need a guy like Baker Mayfield. Sometimes you need a quarterback. And I believe that Sam Darnold is going to be a good quarterback. I believe Josh Rosen is going to be a good quarterback. I don't believe that they have the same type of energy that Baker. So when you're saying Baker going to Cleveland, it was important? Yeah, because his story, it matches up with Cleveland. Nick talks about it all the time. Twice a walk-on. Not once. Twice. One of the most efficient passers we've ever seen. Could have come out of college in 2017. It could have come out a year earlier. Stayed and re-broke his passing efficiency record. So you're talking about a guy who's been a high achiever, an overcomer, a guy that one of the best stories for me is him and his dad almost getting into a fist fight, where he wanted to take a lesser scholarship, and his dad told him to go to Texas Tech and walk on. He was like, no, I want to take this scholarship. His dad was like, you can do it. So coming to fisticuffs with his dad, he's had a lot of great building blocks that I believe a franchise who has a history of Cleveland, it matches up well with who Baker is.
Yeah, he was the missing piece, right? And when John Dorsey decided to make him the #1 overall pick, all of us were scratching our heads and saying, I don't know about this one. Maybe he's got the highest ceiling, but he's got the lowest floor. But it seems like that risk has paid off for that Cleveland Browns front office. But in looking at this Cleveland Browns team, this is not a team that's bereft of talent. A lot of losing went into being able to get these players on this roster. A lot of high draft picks. Now, of late, those high draft picks have worked out. Some of the ones earlier this decade, not so much. But guess what? You didn't have to sign those guys on second contracts, so you had the cap space to go out and do a little bit of shopping the last 2 off seasons, and all of that has paid off. But in looking at what Baker Mayfield has meant to this organization the last couple of weeks as he's been the starting quarterback, you can look at their offense. They're averaging over 450 yards of offense a game. Just to put a little context on that, the Rams are the #1 offense in the NFL. They're averaging 468. So I think they're tied for the most big plays in the last 2 weeks in the NFL.
Plus, there were a couple of those games they could have won.
Yeah, the Oakland Raiders overtime game. Easily. I mean, they had a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter, and they couldn't finish the drill. But that's where this team is. They're trying to figure out how to win now. It's a lot of young guys that haven't been there before, but it's not because they don't have talent. That's not why this is a team that's struggling to find a way to win. This is a team that just doesn't have the formula for success. And if you don't have the formula, it's hard to replicate week in, week out.
It is one thing for some of these young quarterbacks to come out with a team that has been struggling and say, we could win a couple games this year. We could be substantial. It's another thing to say, we could probably make the playoffs. That's how good we are. And you've been on this bandwagon for a long time.
Listen, I think they're good enough to be a playoff team. I think going into the year, I thought whether it was Tyrod Taylor, who I thought thought would be better than he was, or Baker Mayfield if he got the opportunity, that if you just had adequate quarterback play when you have Myles Garrett, who's a star, Larry Ogunjobi, who I know you've talked about, who is an underrated, maybe potential star coming up into this league, Emmanuel Ogbah, who was their best defensive lineman last year when Myles Garrett was out. That's 3/4 your defensive line. Christian Kirksey's a good linebacker. Denzel Ward, I had no idea how good he was going to be. No clue. Those are all defensive pieces. If you have a difference maker at quarterback, when you have that type of defense, I think 3 good running backs. My biggest criticism of Todd Haley since Baker's gotten in the game is give Nick Chubb the ball more.
Right.
I don't understand.
That Raiders game,
I mean,
he had 3 carries for over 100 yards.
I mean, give Nick, and in this last week's game, he played well in limited carries. But I just think they have enough talent. And because maybe they could have 4 wins right now. But 2-2-1, you're fine. Like in the AFC and the AFC North, even with Cincy at 4-1, you're fine. So could they win 9 games and be a playoff team? Absolutely they could.
What worries you about this Cleveland team, Steve?
I got 2 major concerns. And number 1 is they got all this talent together by losing. I know Baker just got there. Half the games in the NFL are won and lost. People are like, oh, well, yeah. But half of them, you know how to win. And the other half of the teams, they know how to lose. I'm concerned about all these close games, them not knowing how they're going to win these games because they've lost a lot of them over the years, and they've lost a lot of close ones. My second concern is they don't have a lot of talent at wide receiver. Now, when they started the season,
we thought they had a ton.
Josh Gordon, Corey Coleman, those guys are removed from that locker room. Man, I don't like the wide receivers that they have. Callaway, depending on a young guy who struggled in college, coming down the stretch, when it gets cold, he's a Florida kid. It's going to be cold in Lake Erie. I'm wondering about his ability to be able to separate and get open and be a dependable number 2. Jarvis Landry, I believe in him. All right, but he's going to need some help. So for this team, if they had another wide receiver, I'd been like, man, the playoffs, that's a real potential. But I'm concerned about their playmakers. Can they generate that offense 450 in the month of November and in December when that wind is blowing sideways? Are they going to be able to do that? So I got legitimate concerns about does this roster know how to win and the lack of overall talent that they don't have at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily in on the Cleveland Browns being a playoff team just yet, but I think the first point you made, CC, is a valid concern. This team has done a lot of losing this decade, and Vince Lombardi said it. Winning is a habit, but unfortunately, so is losing. So they've got to be able to break that, and I think Baker Mayfield is the key figure in all of this and being able to turn around that culture just because of the confidence that he has and the confidence that he breeds with his attitude toward his teammates. So him continuing to play at a high level, I think that's conducive to creating the type of culture that Hugh Jackson and John Dorsey are envisioning for this team moving forward.
All right, Chris, stick around. Coming up, why is Big Ben pushing for L. Bell's backup? That's next on First Things First. Tonight, Carson Wentz and the Eagles battle Saquon Barkley and the Giants in a fierce divisional showdown. It all starts at 7:30 Eastern on Fox, NFL Network, and streaming on Prime.
I feel like Canny's going to pick the upset. I don't want to spoil it yet. I know we're going to talk about it later. I feel like Canny's going to pick the upset. I just got a gut feeling. I maybe was peeping his radio show a little bit.
Back here with Canty, it's time for Say What? Canty, your former teammate Joe Flacco has been lining up a wide receiver on some plays when Lamar Jackson enters the game. And as you can see, the guy who's barely moving at the top of your screen, barely even fazed by the fact that he was there. He spoke about the experience. Say what?
I mean, you can see me. I'm out there just standing, really just trying to stay out of the way of everything. That's what I'm told to do. That's what I'm doing. I think I've told a few of you guys. My wife gave me crap the one day, told me I need to look more interested out there, but I'm just trying to stay out of it, man. I'm not comfortable out there. I haven't been out there in a very long time, so I don't need to be trying to get too creative.
All right, see. As someone who's done it before, is it possible to just not do anything at the position?
Yeah, I feel for Flacco, because, Nick, I feel like we would be in that position. Like, if you and I was out there and our wives and everything, I could see Danielle and Sue being like, look at you. Get in your stance. Look like a football player. I mean, look like you get ready to catch the ball.
But it's actually, he's going to be made fun of for this. But standing like that makes it to where they can't hit him, right?
Exactly.
If he was standing ready to go, they could jam it. they can go hit him. So he has to be disengaged from the play to protect himself.
Yeah,
right?
all that sounds good, but you keep losing to the Cleveland Browns, you're going to be lining up in a different uniform.
Yeah, and also, that's how Nick stand up in the Red Rooster on Friday night, like that,
I'm
posting
not sure
up.
what that means,
Listen to a podcast.
Holding up the wall.
Holding it up.
Did you just have me watching a podcast?
Yeah.
Was this?
That's Nick Wright.
You're not on camera. Hey,
hold on.
Hold on. The cornbread is outstanding.
Cornbread is outstanding.
That I do agree with. That is a good take, Cris Canning. Jenna Wolfe, the floor is yours.
This seems to be the season of have Mike, will dish on my teammates. This time, however, it is not Odell or Jalen Ramsey. It is from the Steelers' star quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger. Ben said he'll push for James Conner to still get carries whenever Le'Veon Bell returns. Big words from Big Ben as Bell continues to sit out. Cris, what do you make of Roethlisberger's comments?
Just stop talking. Stop talking. See, this is my problem with the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's a lot of guys in that locker room with something to say, and they jump in front of these microphones, and they say all of these different things, and not one thing that they say is in the interest of the team trying to move forward and win football games. Like, if you're Ben Roethlisberger, say less and do more. I'm going to need for you not to throw the ball to the other team. But you coming back and saying, okay, James Conner shouldn't just be comfortable relegated to the bench when Le'Veon Bell gets back. Like, I understand you want to have competition, but this is the same guy that had an issue with the organization using a third-round pick to take Mason Rudolph out of Oklahoma State. Like, so you want competition at every position except for your position. Like, in what world does that make sense? Like, I don't understand why Ben Roethlisberger doesn't take his position as the quarterback on a team that has the talent to be competitive more seriously. Because he's the one that should be responsible for setting the tone for this team and setting the agenda, and he doesn't consistently do that. He just creates distractions.
Because he's a diva quarterback. We don't use that term.
No, no. That's diva, man, that's a four-letter word.
Diva wide receiver.
I mean, it actually is.
Right, correct. But mystically as well. Well done, sir. I mean, he's a diva quarterback. He likes people talking about him. Yeah. He doesn't have to do this weekly interview. Tom Brady does the same weekly interview in Boston. And what's the last time we had some Tom Brady controversy? The only controversy is when the people interviewing him say something out of bounds and he hangs up on them.
When was the last time you heard Tom Brady talk about an injury, give you an injury report on Thursday night?
On this interview, I listened to this thing in full. He unprompted, when he's asked about missing some passes, says, I'm having a bit of an elbow issue. And then when they follow up on it, he's like, oh, I don't want to talk about my elbow issue. Okay, well, you brought it up. He does this where he says, I will go to the principal's office and tell them when Le'Veon Bell gets back, we need James Conner to still be involved. We need more of James Conner, which, I mean, unless you're saying we're going to throw the ball less, that is taking carries and touches and potential away from Le'Veon Bell. And then as a little cherry on the sundae, he said, yeah, I talked to Antonio Brown about how he's running his routes. Because when he doesn't run them just straight forward, I forgot the exact terminology he used. He basically said...
He implied he was like goofing around a little bit.
Goofing around with his routes.
Yeah, putting a little too much character into it.
Right, that it's harder for him to hit with the pass. But just... coincidentally, this morning, you were drawing out a route that you used to run that maybe to an untrained eye might have looked like you were goofing around, but there was a reason for it, right?
Yes.
And I'm guessing Antonio Brown knows exactly how to run damn routes. Dude's 5'10" and maybe the best wide receiver in football. He didn't get there he got there by knowing every technical issue of football. Big Ben likes us talking about him. And Big Ben likes to insert himself in controversy. You brought it up yesterday, see? The whole anthem thing last year, still rubs me the wrong way. Like, you had one player on the team that had legitimate reason that even if the team agreed, we're all going to stay in the locker room, you have one guy the only active NFL player that's a veteran, saying, man, maybe I agreed to it, something came over me, and then Big Ben piggybacks on that? And we last year, they lose their biggest game of the year, they lose. On a Big Ben interception, I wanted to spike the ball. Why don't we quarterbacks sneak more? Like, it's a diva quarterback.
Yeah, when I was in Minnesota, and I was very, very close with the general manager, I was very, very close with the head coach and Denny Green, front office, and they used to always run stuff past me all the time. Now, I used to be very, very selective as far as the things I told them because I just knew I was going to be held accountable for the information that I gave them. And I got to live with these guys in the locker room. So these people are coming to me in confidence. And do you know how many times that they ask me, hey, what about this player, offense and defense? What about this defensive back? I've been like, oh, man, the guy's got some skill. I believe he's better at a bump and run player than playing off. I believe he could be a good fit for us. You know, maybe we need to get him some more playing time. But I can't suggest them that this guy should be in front of the guys who are starting. Because you know what, the guys who are starting, you know what they say? Hey, man, Chris, I thought you was about us. So you got a guy that's taking my spot now. We used to have guys like when Robert Smith, when he emerged on the scene, Denny Green asked me, Chris, what do you think about him? I said, we need to integrate him into the offense slowly. But he is a big play waiting to happen. We got to get some snaps for him. Our starting tailback at that time, man, I got to be careful when I say stuff like that. Randy Moss, Chris, what you think? Coach, he got to be on the field. Now, me and Jake Reed had broke the NFL record for 1,000-yard receivers. Not 1 year, not 2 years, not 3 years, but 4 years. So when Randy Moss came into the locker room, Jake Reed already knew that, man, this ain't going to be good for me. So every interview I did, I had to be careful. Jake's reading it. Jake's seeing that. I had to be careful what I said about Randy Moss, how good he was, because he was going to be taking someone else's spot who I was supporting, and I'm also supporting this guy getting less reps. So, man, leadership is tough. I made a lot of mistakes doing stuff like this, but I learned over the years, hey, man, say less. All right? It's more effective than saying more when it's dealing with people and their playing time. Playing time affects money. So now you're taking money out of my pocket, Ben. It's hard for me and you to see eye to eye.
And last time I checked, Big Ben gets paid to operate the offense. He doesn't get paid to give unsolicited personnel advice to the coach and to the general manager. And that's kind of what it feels like with him stepping out there and saying this about James Conner.
Maybe, but Mike Tomlin seems to not care as long as the team's still winning. This is the Pittsburgh Steelers way. You got something to say?
What's Mike Tomlin supposed to do?
So that's my question. If no one's supposed to do anything, if it's not the head coach's job and the players aren't going to call him out on it, this is what they do. What is anyone supposed to do about it?
Well, which is why it's such, to whom much is given, much is expected. Big Ben's the most powerful person, certainly the most powerful player, and arguably the most powerful person that doesn't have Rooney attached to their name in the franchise. He's won 2 Super Bowls. He's got guaranteed money. He's their quarterback.
Don't get carte blanche to do anything and say anything.
Okay,
so you don't think the head coach could just say one thing?
Okay, all right, just relax. For 1 second, for us to think Mike Tomlin is not saying something, we're wrong in doing that. So everything that happens in Pittsburgh, we blame it on Mike Tomlin. It's just like, I mean, it's the natural progression. Well, the quarterback's saying something. Well, what about the coach? Well, we're falling into the same trap that everyone else in Pittsburgh's doing. What did the head coach say for Odell Beckham? He said, if you guys got questions, go ask the player. When you have guaranteed money, these are grown guys. They've been doing press conferences for years. You can only control them. So what are you going to do? Bench him?
Well, that's the thing. Maybe he did say something to him privately.
I'm sure he said something to him.
Like Shermer said, I'm not going to give you the pound of flesh publicly. That would make me small instead of strong. I addressed it with him individually. Like Big Ben, you said give him carte blanche. He kind of has it.
No, I was saying that sarcastically.
No.
He's basically been given carte blanche.
Well, I think that is the
What about Aaron Rodgers?
Right.
What about Eli Manning? What about Phillip Rivers? What about Matty Ice? What about Drew Brees?
None of them are talking the way.
But that's not the head coach's fault. That's his fault. That's not, you think
So my question is there anyone that could keep him in check? What do you do about it? Nothing.
Wait, Jenna, first of all, there is no one in the NFL that can keep anyone in check. Bill Belichick can't keep Tom Brady. When Tom Brady wants to say something, you know what he does? He says something. You know what? He does a documentary. Yeah, you guys follow my life around because that guy's not going to let you. I'm going to do it my way. So there is no, when you give a guy $50 million, $70 million guaranteed, you know what you're going to get? Man, you're going to get whatever that dude wants. So controlling him that's a little strong. You tried to steer. We try to steer their conversations, but trying to control them, that's not going to happen.
All right, we've got to take a break. Chris, we'll see you a little bit later on. Coming up, Rob Gronkowski's got some words for the Chiefs that might surprise you. Words on the show today. That's next on First Things First. The MLB postseason continues tomorrow with Game 1 of the NLCS. Dodgers ace Clayton Kershaw will take the mound as he looks to shut down Christian Yelich, and the Brewers will not be easy. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern on FS1 and the Fox Sports app. Going to be a good series, guys.
Listen, it's going to be Dodgers starters going up against Brewers bullpen guys. Like, the Brewers are going to play matchup after matchup with all their litany of arms. My prediction, If nobody asks, I'm giving it anyway. Dodgers in 7. Clayton Kershaw, NLCS MVP. That's what I see coming.
I think one of the best stories that we haven't talked about is Yelich not getting a Triple Crown. What a tremendous story. I mean, just being so close.
It was right there.
And now to be able to have that ability in the playoffs, the biggest stage, not too many eyeballs on him in Milwaukee this season. Let's see if he can duplicate that performance.
Christian Yelich took the plate in game 162 with the ability, if he had hit a home run, I think it was the 4th inning, had been on 1st and 2nd. If he had a home run
he was there. He had the guys
he would have had
on.
it. That's how close you can come.
The reason why Nick followed up on that information, because he was shocked that I pulled that guy out. He was like,
I was very impressed. C's out here watching MLB extra innings. Christian Yelich takes.
All right, guys, time for an early in or out today. The Chiefs and Patriots have a big showdown on Sunday Night Football. We will get to see the best 2 tight ends face off in Gronk and Travis Kelce. This season, Kelce has more yards, catches, and touchdowns than Gronk so far. CCU in or out on Travis Kelce being the best tight end this season?
Well, Jenna, I know how much you love it, so I got to tell you, relax on Travis Kelce.
Get off that corner. I hate America. I hate that.
Gronk has the crown, but, man, it might be transferring about mid-game. Definitely this season. Gronk, watching him, the toe is starting to, you can see that he's starting to lumber a little more early in the season. So I got my eye on Gronk. Kelce ultimately will be the best tight end potentially this season.
But right now, this moment, you're out. Right now, you think Gronk's still the guy.
He's got too many weapons around him. Gronk is the best.
All right, I am in because up to this point in the season, Kelce's just been better. And where Gronk had really distinguished himself was his blocking. He's still that type of blocker. My friends at Pro Football Focus, our friends I should say Travis Kelce's been one of the best run-blocking tight ends in football this year. So when his receiving production is that much greater than Gronk so far, and he's not at as much of a deficit on blocking.
Yes.
Thus far this year, it's been Travis Kelce. And moving forward, I have so many fewer health concerns with Kelce. Gronk's the most talented tight end I've ever seen. Right now, I think Kelce's the best.
Gronk's looking for another injury. Kelce looking for a date.
He's looking for another reality show.
Tonight on Fox, Week 6 kicks off with the Eagles taking on the New York Giants. Vegas has Philly as 3-point favorites for tonight's NFC East matchup. CC, are you in or out on the Eagles beating the Giants tonight?
Jenna, you talked about it earlier. Man, all the home teams have won all the Thursday night games, but we believe the bus ride up the turnpike from Philly to Jersey, I believe the Eagles get it done. I'm in.
Basically, it's not a real road game.
No.
As far as travel goes.
Absolutely.
Man, I got a sneaky suspicion. I'm out on this. I think the Giants win. The Vegas line is tricky here. When the Eagles are only 3-point favorites, I feel like Vegas is begging you to bet the Eagles. Oh, how could you not take them? Giants are 1-4. You only got to lay 3 points defending champs. It's a must-win game for the defending champs. When Vegas begs you to go one way, you go the other. I'm out. I think the Giants get a win.
Yeah, and Nick said the Giants are doing better at 1-4 because they scored 30 last week.
Yeah. I'm saying that they have a little
kid with the yellow hair
a little offensive momentum after last week. I stand by that.
His hair's going to get wet.
You're not going to bully me off that corner.
Does he play football when his hair get wet?
On to the NBA. Last night, the Lakers faced off against the Warriors. Brandon Ingram showed off the skills that made him the #2 overall pick back in 2016. Dropped 26, looked impressive against the Golden State Warriors. Nick, are you in or out on Ingram being a legit #2 option for LeBron this season?
Up until last season, I would have been out on this because LeBron's #2 options for the 7 years prior to that had been Dwayne Wade and then Kyrie Irving. But then last year, I saw it be Kevin Love, kind of, Jeff Green at the end of the Eastern Conference Finals, like Kyle Korver at the end of the regular season. Oh, I'm in. Brandon Ingram's this year going to be better than Kevin Love was last year. And they won 50 games, got to the NBA Finals, so I'm in on that.
I'm in, too, because I also believe his skill set fits in with LeBron. LeBron's going to draw a lot of attention off of him. Man, this kid, too, is soft-spoken. He loves being a Laker. I'm just glad they didn't trade him. That's what I was worried about, trying to acquire another superstar. They're going to trade him. So I'm in with him being the #2. Great example as far as who his #2s have been with the Cavs and stuff of late, especially last season.
All right, finally, last year's MVP James Harden debuted a new move that had everyone asking if it was legal. Their NBA says the move is allowed. CC, you in or out on Harden's move being legal?
I'm in. Man, the guy's invented. He's got like copyrights, patent on some of this stuff. He invented He's invented a couple things. We got to give him credit for really highlighting, especially when defenders would put their arm out and him getting the reach through. Yeah. You know, he's a creative basketball player. I don't think certain people don't even like watching him play. But I believe there's a creativeness to him, how he scores the basketball. I'm totally in, because he didn't travel. 2 steps and then a J.
I'm absolutely in. I'm very pleasantly surprised you're in as well. Listen, this is part of James Harden's brilliance. He's not a high flyer. He's not super fast. He's a little doughy. He's not a great athlete. And he's won a scoring title. He's won an MVP. Maybe should have won 2 MVPs because he figures out ways to exploit the rule book. This is like LeBron's crab dribble. You figure stuff out. Oh, this is allowed. People don't think it's allowed. Oh, it's allowed. I'm in.
If Larry Bird had come up with these basketball offensive innovations, he'd get a lot more credit. But he was that type of scorer, too. Harden, very, very creative. Doesn't get enough. He should get more support for the things, how he's developed his offensive game.
So, just so I'm clear, it was a legal move?
It was. Stop saying illegal. It was legal. It was allowed.
Yeah, I'm saying it was a legal move.
Yes,
not
correct.
illegal.
Just say
yes.
Legal. You don't have to say A in front of it.
It was legal.
It was
yes.
legal move? That's not a
Let's see if we can get you a membership to the...
I don't need that
There is no word club.
I'm good.
Stop with the word club. And Jenna wouldn't be let in.
Are you insane?
No, a membership, man. You got to pay.
Are you...
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.